Well, I had written a script called The Eel that was on the blacklist, and Kevin Walsh, who is the president of Scott Free, was producing that film. And when he joined Scott Free, one of the projects that he brought up to Ridley and Janina was The Eel. So they read it, and they'd been working on this Gucci story for a while, and they had tried, I think, with quite a few different writers, and it never quite clicked. And for me, it was such a familiar story because I grew up in Italy and my mother's a fashion designer. And I remember reading, about the murder and thinking, wow, this would be an incredible film. So Kevin brought me in to meet with Janina, and we immediately clicked. She grew up in Costa Rica, but she also lived in Italy, and so there was a lot of synchronicity there. And it was just a very organic process. I really felt the story, and I was very familiar with a lot of the places that the Guccis were in, and that they lived in. So it sort of came out quite naturally. Well, I had a great foundation in Sarah Gay Forden's book. She did this incredible job compiling essentially the biography of the Gucci family, and so I read the book quite a few times, and then I dove into articles from the time period of the 70s and the 80s when the events took place. And the family was so well known, and there was so much information that it was really kind of really fun to sort of become an investigator and go into the Repubblica from 1977 and read at the time what they were saying about the various family members. When I wrote it, I just could not stop thinking about Lady Gaga, and I even said to my friend, I was like, if I could have anybody play this character, it would be Lady Gaga. And yeah, it was just one of those things. I couldn't stop imagining her in the role for many reasons. Um, Obviously, the fact that she's of Italian heritage, the resemblance that she has to Patrizia, the kind of passion and the drama, and the talent. I mean, she's just such an incredible person and so creative. So I really dreamt of her joining the project while I was writing it. So the fact that she ultimately did and did such an incredible job was a gift. One thing that we really talked about was the Shakespearean nature of the story. I think that's something that kept coming up. Um, you could kind of draw lines between the true story and some of Shakespeare's great characters, whether it was Maurizio, who's sort of like a Hamlet. Um, Obviously, Patrizia would be a Lady Macbeth. Paolo's sort of like a buffoon. I mean, there's a lot of parallels with the great Shakespearean tragedies or comedies. Movies like these, like House of Gucci, don't really get made that much anymore. They're not. They're really sort of luxuries. And so to have this kind of film, this kind of story, told with the scope that it's told in, is is an amazing thing. And I think Ridley just really was excited, to jump in and tell a story that takes place over 30 years, with this massive canvas, and these incredible, twists and turns, and it's also genre-wise, it's kind of it's a crime thriller, it's a fashion biopic, it's a love story gone wrong. I mean, it has so many different shades. So I think he was like a kid in a candy store, really. So this film is about the Gucci family, spanning 30 years, and it's really about uh, the romance at the center of the family that occurs between Maurizio Gucci, who's the heir to the throne, and Patrizia Reggiani, who's a young middle-class Italian girl who is basically being groomed by her mother to marry up in society. And Patrizia meets Maurizio, and their relationship blossoms very passionately and very quickly. And she starts uh, pushing him or convincing him that the other members of the family needs to be eliminated. And he does so, and he does so quite successfully. And once he's eliminated everybody, he eliminates her as well. So she obviously feels a little resentful about that, and hires a couple of hitmen to off him. Uh, that's the story, essentially. Jared Leto was so playful and so I just loved what he did with the character, and there was a real a sense of spontaneity in his performance, even though he took the character and the writing quite literally. Every now and again, he would come up with a line or two or a little nuance that I thought was so beautiful, and the other actors too. I mean, it was just so wonderful to see people take the writing and add to it, and really kind of feel freedom creatively to improve on it and to build on it, whilst at the same time keeping what I had written. You know, Gaga, the moment when she says Father, Son, and House of Gucci, which has now gone, I think, quite viral, that was not in the script, by the way, I have to say. That was Lady Gaga's genius ad-libbing. And there was a few lines like that. There was a few lines that I was sitting there thinking, wow, that's a great line. I wish I had written that, you know. Lady Gaga plays Patrizia Reggiani. At the beginning of the story, she's 25. um, and Patrizia is a young Italian girl in Milan with no real career prospects. She's basically a socialite, a very friendly lady who just sort of wants to meet new people. And her mother pushes her a lot into finding a sort of rich upper crust boyfriend. And one night she meets Maurizio at a party, and essentially that begins the story as we know it in the film. Um, she's a woman who starts off uh, quite positive, quite joyful, and ends up being extremely dark and tormented. So it really has an incredible arc, and I think that's one of the things that Lady Gaga does so beautifully in the story is go through these colors and through these shades, and bring a real humanity to the character and a relatability, which I think was very important. The unattainable, in a way, the fact that the Gucci family really are or were the royal family of Italian fashion. Um, I can't think of many other fashion houses that had three generations running through them. And so for her, as for everybody else really growing up in Italy at that time, they represented clothing aristocracy. Um, and of course, the fact that she genuinely, I think, loved Maurizio was an added bonus. But there was a real sense of having achieved the unachievable in a way when she penetrated that barrier of the Gucci relatives. The fact that she managed to do something that I don't think many people would have been able to do. Maurizio's role in the family, I always sort of equated it to Michael Corleone in The Godfather. He's at the beginning, he really doesn't want to have anything to do with it. He honors the legacy. He knows obviously who he is. He knows that the weight on his shoulders is very heavy. But he's also very happy being a lawyer, studying law. Um, he's even happier when he's playing with trucks, when Patrizia's father essentially throws him a bone and hires him to work at the trucking company. So it's a story really for him of quiet acceptance, of slowly owning up to who he is and to his fate, because it is a very kind of a fatal fate in a way that he knows, in a sense, he knows that it's all going to go horribly wrong, because the third generation in any empire, they say the third generation wrecks it, and that's basically what happens. So there's a kind of a sense of doom to his accepting of his role.